Greetings, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our world of darkness, where today we're going to be continuing on with Eric, our Brujah, and his little adventures in the city of New York, in Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. So, let's get right on that. With every game session, we're going to start off with a little bit of a rest. Knock, knock. You'd ask who's there, but you don't know if the sheriff of New York City would play along. When you open the door, you see him toying with the car keys he's holding in his hand. Ready to go, fledgling? You don't feel like it, but you give him a nod nevertheless. Excellent. Stay close. He leads you down to the vehicle he's parked nearby. Once again, he takes the wheel, literally and figuratively. Everything inside is just the way you remember it, down to the rear view mirror reflecting the intense stare of your guide. However, the trip itself feels notably different. The last time Kadir drove you around, he was forcibly dragging you away from your old life. This time, he's pulling you back into it. All the things you wanted to say to Jessica keep running through your head. Let me tell you how it's going to go. As I said, I've arranged a meeting between you and your kin. It's going to take place somewhere you should know very well. I'll watch over the two of you from a safe distance to make sure you adhere to the rules. You should know those very well. But I'll reiterate, just so you can't ever say I didn't warn you. Don't do anything that would violate the masquerade. Don't establish some secret routes of contact. I will know. Do treat it as the last time you two will meet. Take this chance to wrap everything up. Here's your story. You're fine. Found yourself at a crossroads, decided to radically change your life and move out of the city. The subway is unbearable. The rent is too high. They've heard it all. You were ready to leave New York for good when you heard those absurd rumors about taking your own life. So you've decided to set the record straight. He gives you a knowing look. And close the curtains on your relationship, once and for all, on your terms. The car makes a sudden turn. I'll leave the finer details to you. Just be so kind, and don't make me regret it. You can sense he's going out of his way for you, but doesn't try to force you into gratitude by stating it plainly. If you know, you know. He'll see if you're worthy of his aid. We're here. You take a look around and recognize your destination. He was right. It is a familiar place. It's that club. The one you met your future sire in while trying to forget about Jess. This is where they last saw poor Eric. Who knows whatever might happen to him? One Jessica Lowell is trying to find out. She got a tip from an anonymous source saying that you might appear here tonight. Wouldn't want to disappoint the lady, would you? She's apparently quite distraught. He turns off the engine and relaxes comfortably in his seat. You silently leave the car and head straight for the club. The last time you were headed this way, you still had a pulse. Feels almost nostalgic. There's a party getting started and some rookie DJ is trying to read the crowd. You begin to look for Jess. You wonder what the first thing you say to her should be. Yeah, that should work. The music is pulsing, and there are good vibes in the air. You spot a girl hurrying to the bathroom with a nosebleed. The smell is faint, but it gets you in the mood to have some fun. However, Kadir indicated that he's got a pair of eyes around here somewhere. Better stick to the plan. A stupid idea pops into your head. If you meet her, and she says, "I want to be with you again," what would you do? What's done is done. Best not dwell on it. By now, it feels like you've explored all the places Jess could have been. It's getting frustrating. You grab the cheapest drink they have from the bar. A tall blonde girl in a stylish skirt smiles at you from behind heart-shaped glasses. You smile back, but this is no time for the heart to guide your hand. You walk past her, back to your duty. You mimic taking a sip from your drink. God, you could have been so much fun tonight. You could accidentally stumble into Jessica when you least expect it. She looks at you as if she's seen a ghost. You freeze up, trying to come up with something to say and failing. The last few years of your life flash before your eyes. Wait, what was the line you decided to open the conversation with? Before you remember, a powerful slap takes you off your stupor. You stupid motherfucker. Guess she gets the first line. You realize you've spilled your drink all over your clothes. I've been so worried. I've been so fucking worried. Called everyone I knew to look for you. And you just having fun clubbing? You thought it would be funny to drop all contact with everyone, pretend something happened to you? What? You wanted to see my reaction? She slaps you once again. You let some sort of disassociation set in, and just watch the situation as it unfolds. I'll let everybody know you're okay, but don't you ever show yourself in front of me again. She turns her back on you and disappears into the crowd, walking towards the exit. You look around. You notice the heart-shaped glasses girl chuckling in the distance. You're no longer in the mood to party. Guess you'll follow Jessica's lead and leave. Better not to keep the sheriff waiting. Well, at the very least, you can say this. She still cares. That's nice. Back to Kadir's car. Once you close the door, he instantly puts his foot on the gas pedal. Walking off the pitch with no regrets. Said everything you had to say? You speak without thinking. Yeah, she said she'll call off the search. Getting her to accept it was over took some harsh words, but deep down I think she knew it was time to say farewell once and for all. She's a little shaken up, but she'll live. You spot a playful smirk in Kadir's eyes. You took care of it like a man, did you? Very good. The people we knew in life have this tendency to briefly reappear in our own lives. One night, let's say 20 years from now, she might spot you on the street. You won't have aged a day from now, and even though she'll tell herself that it can't be you, she'll be jealous. And if you look happy, she will feel regret over what could have been. So, for the sake of the night your paths cross once again, I hope you'll search for your own happiness. The car speeds up to cross an intersection. Before the light turns red, you give Kadir a good hard look. Thanks. It doesn't feel like a very, vampire thing to say, but you say it nonetheless. He's visibly taken aback, and his usual furrowed brow smooths out for a moment. Then he takes on a serious, slightly sorrowful expression. Don't suck up to me, kid. Mr. Bad Guy is still here, and without a doubt he will go back to decapitating suckers like you any time now. The car starts to slow down. We're here. You look out the window and see your haven. Take care. I'll see you around. Just pray I don't have to see you too often. You leave the car and start walking to your haven, thinking about Kadir. Can't say you're fond of him, what with the welcome he gave you and all, but after tonight, you can't say you aren't either. You're gonna need some more time to understand him, that's for sure. Alright, I think we're a little behind the times on our gangrel friend. Upon returning to your haven, you find a small scrap of paper laying on your windowsill. Need a favor. If you're still up for it, come meet me in Prospect. Tam. Once again, you cross the gate of Prospect Park and head straight for where you last saw the feral duo. Minutes passed. Finding no sign of Tamika, you begin to worry that something might have happened to her. Suddenly, you hear rustling coming from nearby bushes. And it's not a stray cat kind of rustling either. Hey, you in the bushes. You know I can hear you, right? The rustling stops, if only for a second. Suddenly, the bushes part and Raoul walks out, desperately trying to look confident. Yeah, that's only because I wanted you to. Listen, I wanted to have a word before Tam gets here. She seems to like you for whatever strange reason, but the way I see it, you're a nuisance at best. At worst, you're a threat. I get it. You don't like me. Forgive me if I don't lose sleep over it. You should be, because when I don't like someone, I do something about it, and it's usually not pleasant. Tamika is my sister, in every sense of the word that counts. Anything happens to her that I find even remotely your fault, and I'm coming after you. Is that clear? I'm not your enemy, or Tamika's. I don't think you understand. I don't give a fuck what you think you are. What I'm saying is, if anything happens to Tamika, I'm holding you accountable. All of a sudden, the sound of footsteps reaches your ears. It's just faint enough not to be ostentatious, but still loud enough to hear. You can tell whoever's approaching wants to make their presence known. Both you and Raoul turn just in time to see Tamika emerge from behind an old sycamore tree. It's hard to tell just how long she's been listening in on your conversation. In any case, she walks up and speaks, addressing no one in particular. Did I miss anything? Your brother's worried about you. He seems to think I'm a bad influence. Ah. In an instant, her voice goes from mockingly sweet to stern and unyielding. Her next words sound like a challenge. Is that true, Raoul? You think I can't take care of myself? God damn it, Tam. That's not what this is about, and you know it. I know, big brother. You meant well. You always mean well. Now screw it. Why do I even bother? And with that, Raoul takes his leave. Tamika waits in silence just long enough to make sure he can no longer hear her, and addresses you. I have a favor to ask. Okay, what is it? I have an errand to run. I was hoping you'd come with me. There's a place east of here. It's a short walk. We should be back in about 2, maybe 3 hours. 3 hours, huh? You call that a short walk? Sorry. I'm used to much longer distances than that. I forgot not everyone is. You think you can handle it? Sounds kinda shady. Should I expect trouble? You should always expect trouble, but I'm not planning to start any. And so, you head towards the parking lot, accompanied by Tamika and a lot of unanswered questions. Following Tamika's directions, you finally arrive at the Evergreens Cemetery, one of the oldest burying grounds in Brooklyn. You enter through the southwestern gate and follow your companion through the sea of tombstones. It's a nice enough place, as far as graveyards go, much less homogenized than the usual flat fields littered with identical markers. Tamika confidently presses on, swerving and weaving along the pre-programmed path. It's clear that she's been here more than a few times. Finally, she makes a sharp left and takes a few more steps down a gravel walkway, coming to a sudden stop in front of the modest headstone. The inscription reads, Luca Santiago, beloved sister and daughter, born 1991, taken from us too soon. With her eyes fixed on the gravesite, she lets out an absent-minded utterance. I need a moment alone. Not long. 5 minutes at most. You look around and search for a good spot to wait for her and pass the time. At the far end of a nearby lawn, you notice a lone bench situated under a weeping willow. Suddenly, you hear voices, distant but slowly approaching. Judging by the tone and timbre, you're guessing it's a couple of teenagers out to get their late-night kicks among the dearly departed. Might be a good chance to feed. Then again, you could just pass the time walking around the area. It's actually quite nice, in a dark, somber kind of way. Take your time. I think I'll go grab myself a drink. Just do it quietly. I don't want any trouble. Not here. You leave Tamika alone and follow the voices. Soon enough, you come upon a couple in their late teens. Judging by their thick eyeliner and their clothes, consisting mostly of black leather and lace, you'd venture a guess that they'd love nothing more than to meet an actual vampire. You're happy to oblige. As you emerge from the shadows, you can feel your awe intensify. The boy and the girl watch you, completely awestruck, waiting for you to approach. The slightest gesture is enough to shoo the boy away. He sits on a nearby bench and watches, completely enamored, as your lips press against the girl's neck. It's a weird sensation to feel actual, honest-to-God pride in a victim's blood. But here you are. She's glad to have been chosen in this way. You decide there's no good reason to discriminate, and also take a sip from the guy. His B.O. is pretty terrible, but the taste of his blood isn't half bad. Hoping the teen's post-kiss gaze will make your face just an impression in their memory, you leave them on the bench, just as they let their excited hormones run wild and start making out furiously. You half expect Kadir to materialize, sword in hand, to deal with these loose ends, or with you, for leaving them to roam like you did. You need to be more careful in the future. Finally, you get back to the tree and find Tamika sitting on the bench. Without a word, you sit next to her. You look over to her, doing your best not to stare. She looks down, crossing her arms and putting her hands on her shoulders. In an instant, the ferocious savage disappears, replaced by a vulnerable young woman. I think I'm done. You okay? I'm better now. Sorry, I guess I should tell you what this was all about. She looks away. You can tell she's struggling to open up to you, so you remain silent, trying not to make her uncomfortable. I was embraced not far from here, in this ceremony. A fitting spot, I suppose. It was close to a decade ago. I'd been on the road for a couple of years at that point, hitchhiking from one town to another. New York was supposed to be just another stop. And then I met Jezebel. She was strong, smart, independent. Seemed like someone I could trust. I could get close to. She never made me feel inadequate or ashamed, and she just hold her own in a fist fight, too. Funny thing, though, is she only wanted to meet during nighttime. I didn't think much of it. Even came up with excuses for her. Busy, eccentric, whatever worked. Until one night she sank her teeth into my neck. Hey, at least you got to know your sire. Can't say the same for myself. For a brief moment, she looks at you with genuine sympathy. I'm sorry. She then looks away as if slightly embarrassed by her own reaction. Anyway, she left soon after turning me. I think the conclave of Prague really shook her up. Wait, the conclave of what now? Prague. It's a city in Central Europe. It was supposed to be neutral ground, a good place to discuss politics and strategy. It ended up almost turning into a civil war. Next thing you know, the anarchs were expunged from the Camarilla. All they had done for our kind, the blood they spilled, didn't amount to a thing. I can't blame Jezebel for feeling betrayed, but yeah, even though I still had Raoul and Luca, I was still furious and terrified. Luca died a few years later. Operation Lights Out, they called it. It was a coordinated assault by the Second Inquisition, a genocide by any other name. Her family got together, bought up a plot, and buried an empty casket. I guess they wanted some closure. Can't fault them at that. Even though she's not really here, I like to come and visit from time to time. It reminds me of who I am, keeps me in check, keeps the beast at bay. Also, this being the place of my embrace, you have to appreciate the level of irony. She straightens up and looks at you as if something just occurred to her. Sorry, I don't know what came over me. One minute I'm all grunts and stares, and the next I'm giving you my biography. I guess I'm just tired. I'm being scared. Alone. You don't have to be alone. I used to think so, but those were simpler times. At this point, I'm just looking for something to believe in, something I could give a damn about. You'll always have Raoul. She smiles sadly. Will I? Don't get me wrong, Raoul is my brother. The bond between us is not easily broken. But he's got ideas and ambitions of his own. He won't always be there to watch my back. I can't expect that of him. You open your mouth, but before you can make a sound, Tamika motions at you to keep quiet. She lifts her head and sniffs the air. Her ears perk up, and her eyes widen. Suddenly, she pushes you with all of her strength, sending you flying off the bench. Before you even hit the ground, an immense shape flies into view and smashes down onto the bench, splintering it into pieces. With the blood surging through your veins, you pounce onto your feet. You look at the mass of fur and muscle that just nearly pulverized you. The creature rears its head and gives you a deranged stare. It then turns to Tamika. She seems utterly terrified, frozen in place, as if she literally just saw a ghost. You notice the creature shifts its weight as it's preparing to pounce. Feeling as if your muscles have turned to steel, you ram the creature before it can throw itself at Tamika. The beast flies through the air and smashes its back against the tree. In a matter of seconds, however, it's back onto its feet. Your attack might have surprised it, but it clearly didn't do any real damage. The creature then turns towards you. For a second or two, it moves its mouth awkwardly as if trying to remember how to form words. Stay out. My ground. The creature runs off towards a nearby clearing, when all of a sudden a gunshot sends it tumbling onto the ground. A group of well-armed men in body armor emerge from the shadows in an orderly formation and move in closer around the creature. With your ego sufficiently wounded, you decide to stand your ground. It's one thing to get messed up by some supernatural monstrosity, but these look like ordinary mortals. Still, whoever they are, they seem to know what they're doing. You wipe the blood off your nose and steel yourself for what's to come. All of a sudden, Tamika grabs you by the arm. No, there's too many of them. Come on. Deferring to her judgment, you promptly follow her behind a nearby bush. Luckily, the men don't appear to have spotted you. From the relative safety of the thick foliage, you watch in silence as the group of armed men subdue the creature using steel nets and cattle prods. In the corner of your eye, you catch Tamika looking away, as if she finds the whole spectacle somehow distasteful. She speaks under her breath, her voice shaking. "Can we get out of here?" You see no reason to object. The walk back turns out to be a quiet and somber experience. You both walk in silence, the city a blur of lights and cars careening by. You look over to Tamika. She seems lost in her thoughts. Finally, you decide to break the silence. "Are you going to be all right? That thing back there really spooked you." "I don't know." She catches herself and quickly attempts to hide her vulnerability. "Yeah, I think so. It's just that I've always heard stories about the Scarred One. I just never thought I'd actually run into him." "The Scarred One?" "That's the only name he's known by. He's a cautionary tale for young Gangrel. He's what happens when you let the beast take over. I always figured him more as a metaphor. Seeing him in real life, it's like if a Christian just happened to run into Judas Iscariot one day, and seeing him hunted down by the SI. I don't know what to think. I don't even know where to start thinking." Deciding to give her some space, you spend the rest of the walk in silence. Soon enough, the familiar tree line of Prospect Park comes into view. You stop by the entrance nearest to Tamika's haven. She keeps walking, without so much as a word or glance in your direction. She stops after several paces and turns back towards you. "I'm sorry. Thank you for coming with me. But now I have a lot of shit to figure out. Once I do, I'll let you know." With that, she disappears among the trees. Seeing no point in sticking around, you take your leave. And I do believe that is that, Kindred. I would like to thank you for joining me on this little journey. We had a very interesting night tonight, taking care of some baggage, hanging out with our gangrel friends, running into a white, and the Second Inquisition. This adventure is getting interesting, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds. We'll continue with the next night soon, I think, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette. This is our World of Darkness, and we are playing Vampire the Masquerade: Coteries of New York. Good evening.